Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Monster Families. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the monsters that I kind of overlooked, mainly because they act and behave and honestly seem like they are part of the zombie family. And when I made the zombie video, I kind of included them in the zombie video, and well, they're a different family entirely. They're called mummies. Not to be confused with greater mummies, which we'll be talking about as well. Mummies are essentially a dead person that's been preserved. They're crunchy zombies. They got a crunch. Like zombies are gooey zombies. Like mummies are crunchy zombies. Mummies include things like the dried corpse, decayed, embalmed, preserved dead, and the cadavers. And let's have a look at the Act 5 bestiary too, just to make sure there's no mummies on the list. There we go. We do have mummies on the list for the Act 5 guest monsters. So we do have cadavers as guest monsters in Act 5. Mummies generally have poison damage as their effect. Not only do they do poison damage on striking, but they also have a poison cloud, which they emit when you kill them. Now let's read what Ariat Summit has to say. The inhabitants of Aranok have long practiced the art of preserving the dead as a reverence to those deceased. Priests fill bodies with preservative fluids, then wrap them in a specially treated cloth and bury them in tombs below the desert surface. Sounds kind of like a zombie burrito. The mummification is believed to provide benefits to the deceased in the afterlife. Physically, a mummified body maintains its flesh and sinew for hundreds, even thousands of years. Under Mephisto's manipulation, these honored dead have been summoned and bound with the spirits of malicious demons to fill the ranks of the undead army. Instilled with eternal loathing for living, mummies are stronger and better suited for combat than zombies, who, due to their advanced decay, are weak and infirm. Mummies are slow-moving but can deliver powerful blows, often with the touch of poison from their chemicals used in their embalming. Fallen mummies often burst asunder from their wrappings, leaving behind poisonous clouds that living should best avoid. When killed, mummies emit a poison cloud that can affect you and your minions, and if you are particularly weak against poison, you may want to consider carrying antidote potions when engaging mummies. Honestly, just poison in general tends to be very nasty in this game. Mummies also have a chance to deal poison damage on striking. Because of this, they're always immune to poison, as you can see here. Even the Act 5 guest version is always immune to poison because they are, dead and don't have blood vessels anymore. And obviously also they tend to have lots of poison in them anyway. They have high poison resistance in all difficulties, including normal difficulty at 70% and nightmare at 80%, and they are immune in hell. Easy to break, though. None of them are particularly high to the point where they're unbreakable, so lower resist should be able to break the poison resistance. And on top of that, obviously, you'd probably want to use Asunder. They are not immune to Life Leech and Mana Leech like skeletons are, though. Even though they are undead, I guess they still have something left in them that resembles life, and so you can steal something from them. But they do only have a 33% drain effectiveness in hell. They do have up to a 25% chance to block, and that is only the cadavers, which are the strongest versions of the zombies. And they do tend to have about double the HP of your average monster. So most monsters in the game seem to be somewhere around like 3 to 4,000. And if they're below that, they're on the low end side, and if they're above that, they're on the high end side. And zombies tend to be above that, so they're between 3 and 8,000. Which means that they usually tend to have a little bit more meat to them than some of the other monsters. So the mummies tend to be a little bit harder to kill. Their AI sucks, though. And quite honestly, they just don't really make good minions. They do hit hard, but they also tend to just kind of wander around. And that's one of the problems with them. They just kind of wander. Sometimes they hit you, and sometimes they dish out damage, and sometimes, just like the zombies, they kind of just have a mind of their own. They are a little bit stronger than zombies, though, it seems, just simply because their AI seems to be a little bit better than the zombies. And as you kill them, they, of course, make poison clouds, which, if you're standing in, you can be poisoned with. They also have a chance to poison you on striking as well. On top of this, there are also ways that they can be resurrected if you are dealing with, for instance, the greater mummies, which is the... Where are my greater mummies at? I know I had the greater mummies open here somewhere. Here they are. The greater mummies are the Haradrim. The Haradrim can, of course, resurrect them and heal them. because they are undead. And these greater mummies interact with any undead monster, no matter what it is. Although, according to the lore here, it says there's demons inside of them, which is kind of interesting. Then there is also the mummy sarcophagus, which I saved specifically for the mummies, because the mummy sarcophagus can create mummies from basically nothing. So, creating using long forgotten techniques, these coffins serve not as a resting place for the honored dead, but as a magical means of creating animated mummies to serve as guardians of their hidden crypts. Although the purpose of these sarcophagi may have been to protect the treasures buried beneath the dunes, the evil that has corrupted the sands around Lutko Lane has also turned these guardians into predators. Killing the mummy sarcophagus as soon as possible to prevent more mummies from being spawned, and mummy sarcophagi do not drop items, and you cannot lifesteal or mana steal from mummy sarcophaguses. As far as I'm aware, too, the mummies that are created by the sarcophagus, I do not believe that they provide EXP because it's an infinite source, and in Diablo they don't like you having infinite sources of EXP. I do generally kill the mummy sarcophaguses, though, because they give a pretty decent amount of EXP in hell difficulty at 146,000 for killing the sarcophagus. So if you're able to kill the sarcophagus relatively quickly, then it's worth doing. They only have 52,000 HP, which is about like 5 or 6 monsters worth of HP, and if you have Crushing Blow and Open Wounds and all sorts of other things, they go much faster. They have basically no physical resistance, only 25% in hell, no magical resistance, no fire resistance, a strong amount of cold resistance, 150% in hell and 15 on the other axe, 25% lightning resistance in hell difficulty, and none in any of the other difficulties, and 50% poison. Honestly, like, you can kill them relatively easily if you try. If you have the right setup, if you're a physical damage character, or you're one of the elements that they're not particularly very strong to. Crushing Blow helps out, Open Wounds helps out, all sorts of things can definitely help you kill them faster. If you're in a situation where these guys are pumping out mummies, it's definitely something that you may want to kill quicker rather than not. Just simply because if you don't kill them quickly, well, then you're going to get swarmed with a literal swarm of mummies. Revives. So we talked about them as revives. They're okay. Like, they're a little bit better than zombies, but their AI is still kind of terrible, and I don't necessarily want them as summons. The other problem with them as revives is that they deal poison damage, and poison damage doesn't stack from multiple sources. So if you have one monster doing poison damage, and then you have a second monster doing poison damage, you only get one source of poison damage at any time. So they're all going to just be refreshing the same stack of poison damage. So one zombie or one mummy dealing poison damage is the equivalent of 10 mummies dealing poison damage. It's always going to be the same poison damage, and it's always going to be one stack of poison damage, no matter how many mummies that you have, which is a whole thing as well. The guest monsters also have the same chance to do poison on striking, as well as create the clouds, and pretty much the same stats, pretty much immune to poison all the time. 25% chance to block at their height there, and in the Act 5 guest monsters, they're always 25% because there's only one. It's the Cadaver. Not a lot to say about these monsters. They're not particularly very strong, but they do come in a large number of monsters. They have a high amount of HP, but they're not particularly very resistant to a lot of things. Like, they have 0 magic resistance, 0 fire, 0 cold in most regards, only 33 in hell, and so forth and so on. So most of the time you can kill them relatively easily. There are a couple variants of mummies that do have magic immunity. The variants of mummies that have magic immunity, they might even be zombies, actually, because I always get these two confused. They are so close together, it's very difficult to keep them apart in a lot of situations. Let's go take a look, shall we? Let's do a little exploratory mission to Lost City, and let's see if they count as mummies or they count as zombies. Because I'm fairly certain that the zombies that exist in Lost City that are immune to magic, or the mummies that are in Lost City that are immune to magic, they're immune to magic. So let's see if we can find them. I guess they're zombies. These look like zombies. And they definitely are immune to magic. I think those are zombies. They're called Plague Bearers, and I don't think Plague Bearers puts up on the list. So it's interesting is that the mummies and the zombies are very similar to each other. And even in the actual article that talks about them, it kind of references one to the other, right? It says that, where is it? Mummies are stronger and better suited for combat than zombies. So basically, zombies are decayed humans, whereas mummies are preserved humans. Like I said, crunchy zombies. They're crunchy burrito zombies. Come on, gotta get that nice crunch wrap. I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the zombies. There's really not much more to talk about with them. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining. Be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And as always, keep watching.